Welcome back to day 23 of 30 Days to Learn Photoshop. This is the Transform tool lesson. My name is Ben Gribbin, and in today's lesson we're going to look at the transformation tools as well as image and canvas size. We're going to consider what the difference is and what these options do. So let's go ahead and switch over to Photoshop. You see we've got a photograph open here, one taken from photojune.net. And we're going to work through the different transformation controls that we can do with our document, as well as changing the image and canvas sizes. So let's start with scale. We are going to click onto the move tool, and then we're going to click onto our layer. Now this opens up these transformation selections, providing we have them turned on, which allow us to scale. Now scale does exactly what it says on the tin. It allows you to scale an object just using these grab bars, left, right, up, down and diagonally, and also by pressing shift, particularly on the diagonals, we're able to maintain its aspect ratio. We can also set the sizing up here. We can use the X and Y, you can set those in pixels. We can set the width and height in percentages, and we can also set the angle that it's rotated to very, very precisely. And also the positioning, so we can have solid positioning using the height and vertical axes. So that's scaling. Then we can also rotate. Now you saw us do it there using this option, but once we've clicked on it, the option bar changes to this and we can rotate our image. So that's fairly self-explanatory. All you do is you literally go from the image onto the edge of the artboard if it's larger than the artboard. If not, just go to one of the corners or any of the outer perimeter, and that will change to this kind of curved double-headed arrow. One thing you can do with the rotate tool is you can set this point here to be your rotation. So it starts off and snaps to the center of the photograph, but if we put it there, now you can see it's rotating from that point. So you can use that when duplicating shapes and you want to change them very slightly. We can literally set that anywhere, so that's how you change your rotation reference point. And then on the actual edit menu, we have some more transformation options. We've got free transform, which just lets you do basically the same thing as the move tool. It is the same thing as the move tool. If you go to transform though, you'll see we've also got distort, perspective and warp, as well as rotate and flip. So we're going to look through those now. Starting with skew. Skew is used to adjust an image's basically slant. So we can change each side on its own. We can do a automatic change of the slant using the end pieces or the top pieces, or we can do a manual one, so we can set these points to wherever we like, and we can just do that by clicking and dragging them manually and then applying it or committing it up here. That's how you use skew. And then you've also got the ability to distort. So let's go to edit, transform and distort. Distort does a very similar thing. Basically you see that the image looks like it's changing the perspective and it's just distorting the image. So rather than skew, which just changes points in the image but doesn't necessarily distort it, distorting is just another way of stretching an item in all directions. Perspective applies a 1-point perspective to the file. So if we go to transform and perspective, this would be as if you had one camera or if you had 2D vision. So that's how you apply perspective to a file. And then you can also do a warp. Now we have talked a little bit about warps, but if you go to transform and warp, you can warp images as well. You can do a custom warp by literally just clicking and dragging. Let's not apply that. Or you can do some of those presets that we discussed in the text tool lesson. So you've got arc, you've got arc upper, there's loads of different ones. All the symbols, very self-explanatory, and they're adjusted using these key grips here. So if you're not sure how to adjust it, look for the grips, or alternatively you've got the ability to change the bend. Here you can input the value you want. You can also change the heights and the vertical distance and all sorts of stuff there. So that's a very handy tool to use, particularly when you're trying to straighten out things that have got curves on them and stuff like that, and just making images and graphics a little bit more interesting. So we're going to do a practical now. We're actually going to apply some text to this billboard as though it is actually on the billboard. So let's just show you, if we type out some text, so we're just going to type out the word billboard. Billboard. Bit small. Oh, we've accidentally typed it into the sizing of the text, so that'll create an error for us. That would be a bad idea to do that. Let's just undo and redo that. So billboard, like so. Just make it a little bit bigger, or to an actual numerical value, like so, and we're just going to make it caps locks just for aesthetics. So let's do that. So we've changed that to capitals. We're going to change the colour to, I don't know, let's just do it dark grey for now. So we're going to apply this text to our billboard, but you see the problem we've got is it's in a different perspective and it doesn't look like it's there. So if I just drag this to the billboard now, it just looks like it's laying over the top. It's not on the same perspective. It doesn't appear to be applied to the billboard. So we're going to use a combination of tools. We're going to use skew, and we're going to use rotate and scale, and maybe warp as well to do this. So starting off with scale, we're going to put all the points, the four corners, onto the corners of our billboard, and this will hopefully match the planes somewhat to the actual planes of the billboard itself. And it does take a little bit of practice. It's a bit finicky at first when you first get used to it. You want to line up the end pieces ideally. So because this is kind of a 2-point perspective, it's a little bit more difficult and it does take a little bit more time. So we're going to scale the image and we are going to tweak. So you switch to the quick scale by going Command and T or Control and T, and then you can do warps as well if you wanted to do that. But let's just go back to transform and skew, and let's try and match as best as we can the text to this billboard. And this is a little bit of a more tricky object purely because it is 2-point perspective. It's got 2 different planes of view in here because of the angle the picture's been taken at. So that's probably going to be the closest we can get that. Now that looks kind of realistic but not quite, and because of the way that text tools in Photoshop work, we can't do all of the transformations that you could do with just a shape layer or a normal layer. So we are going to rasterize the text now. Not too much of a problem. Just go ahead and, or alternatively we could convert it to a shape. So if we do that, we're still maintaining some editability of the points in it. So let's go to perspective, which is going to help us be able to change the perspective. And it is literally a matter of just tweaking, changing things piece by piece until you're happy personally, until you think it looks quite reasonable. And if you get a little bit stressed out, a bit fed up, just use warp tool, and with a little bit of practice and a little bit of patience, you can actually start to make things look as though they're applied to these elements. You could apply graphics to this billboard. You can do all kinds of cool and different things with that. So that's the final image that we're fairly happy with. It has got a bit of a slant, but that's because we've done it rather quickly. So spend some time, practice this, and you will get really good at it very quickly. It's very simple. This is just a more complicated image to work on. Now the final thing we want to cover in this lesson is image size and canvas size. Up until now we have showed you how to resize elements within the artboard, but we haven't covered how to actually resize the artboard or how to resize the image and the artboard at the same time. So the image size is a way of being able to resize our image. Photoshop does a pretty decent effort at resizing pixels, so you can kind of sometimes get away with resizing something a third larger or 2/3 in some cases without losing too much detail. So all you need to do is go into image size and you can set this to, let's try 2500, like so. We've got these constraint proportions on, so that keeps the aspect ratio correct, and it will change our height automatically, if you notice there, like so. Again, you can use dragging on the labels. You can change the units it's in, and also if you wanted you could use hard measurements down here instead. And if you have any styles applied to the document, you do want to click onto scale sizes. So go onto OK from there, and you can see we've resized our image. So that is now effectively, I think it was 1700 before, so it's got another 1000 pixels added on. It's much larger now. If you want to increase the size of your canvas, i.e. add a border around this image, go onto canvas size. So click onto there. You can set where this additional spacing is going to be added from. So we could do it as it's going to be added top left, or we could have it from just the center, so it's added all the way around. And you can actually do this in pixels, centimeters, whatever you want. Let's just add on an extra 1500 pixels onto our height, onto our width, sorry, and another 1000 onto the height of it, like so. You can click on relative if you wanted, so we could add on, keep the aspect ratio, and then press OK, and you see now we've changed the canvas size. Why would you use that? Well, it allows you to combine elements together. If something's larger than the actual photograph contained within it, you can then apply all kinds of special effects, and it just helps with general photo manipulation in cases where you want to resize something. So what have we learned in this lesson? Well, we've looked at how to use transform controls, and we've considered the difference between image size and canvas size. And your task for the lesson is to practice applying a text object to a surface. It could be a table, it could be a car or a building. Try and use something with more of a one point or flat perspective first, just so you can get the hang of it before you move on to more complicated applications. Next time on 30 Days to Learn Photoshop, we'll be customizing Photoshop's appearance. Thanks for listening.